Hey everybody. So um, I did this video and I feel like it was a really important video for me to do. I was going through a lot of stuff that I'll go over um, in the video to kind of show you why I started recording in the first place. I think that's one of my big topics actually. I gotta stop saying too, because I've been rewatching my videos lately and I'm like, oh, I'm killing myself with this stuff. Alright, so I wrote down some notes about the video because the audio was so bad. I had to delete pretty much all of it because I tried listening through it and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna put anybody else through this. One of my notes is I wanted to talk about what it's been like actually working on this comic book so far, and to kind of set the frame of mind that I have before I started this video, right? So I've been having the time of my life. All my closest friends, the people that I kind of bounce ideas off of, that I go through this comic book where I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do this, what do you think about this? And I got some pretty, like, I have a friend per kind of topic, right? I got friends that, like, I can't say certain words. They know who they are. They don't watch my videos anyways, but I have friends who I can't say certain things because they're so uppity. I got friends that are like, go all in, you know? And I have to like bounce ideas off of different people because I know the kind of range each individual, and I got them kind of grouped into certain sections of friends where I'm like, if I need help with this, if I need to talk to somebody about this, I'm gonna go to this friend. If I need help with this, I'm gonna go to this friend. And each thing's been like helping me tremendously. Like it feels like things are falling into place. This whole comic book has been like a revelation for me, and I've said it before, but it's just been so much fun. And I'm ashamed that I lost that feeling of enjoying doing art, because this is what I want to do, you know. I have some friends, creative friends on my Instagram too, that used to make comic books, and they've gone through the same thing where, even talking to them, because I did a lot of prep work with them where I started pitching the idea just to see what they say, and they kind of got their own thing going on, but they're in their own creative way, and they used to make comic books, as I was saying, but they completely gave up on it. And he's like, my friend that I'm talking about is like, there's no money in it. It's going to cost you more money than, you know, what it's worth. And I get that. There's the chance of complete failure, where even in my head, because I got a topic of failure that I'll speak on in a little bit. In my head, I know if it's a complete failure, it's kind of like a do or die thing. And I haven't even factored what that would be like if I completely fail. It's like putting out your best and then knowing it's over, right? That all depends, right? There's always, as long as you're breathing, as long as you have your two arms, 2 feet, you can work, right? There's always a fighting chance, I'd say, you know. And that's just kind of prepping myself, because I also play the lottery a lot, and I look forward to winning the lottery one day, right? But I know it's probably not going to happen, but it's not going to diminish my effort, you know. It's just, there's going to be a lot of upset people if I win the lottery, is all I'm saying. So back on track here. It's just been so much fun. Like this is the way I need to make comic books. I've already been looking at other books that I have scheduled, kind of like on my to-do list. Not scheduled, because I'm not that organized. But I have projects that I know I need to get done, and I need to approach them like I did this project, and kind of give them the respect that and the adventure and the I'm trying to search for the right words. The appreciation of the craft that I've given this project, because I went into this thing. I mean, if you've watched this whole series, you know I had no idea what I was going to be doing. This story could have gone 7 ways from Sunday. And then it just fell into place to where it's like, hey, we're just going to go for this, and then it's going to be simple, and we don't have to overthink it. And I think that was my saving grace. But it's like, even just doing that and leaving the story up for room to grow and expand in any direction I want. Even now, I'm creating scenes that I'm like, later on down the line, I'm gonna jot down some like key points and be like, hey, when it's time to be excited about this, here's this topic, here's the thing that makes me excited about this scene, and I leave it at that. I don't even want to explore it yet, because even with this drawing that we're doing in the video right now, this is all based off of one scene. Me and a couple friends, I went back and forth, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about taking this story in this direction. What do you think about this and this reference? And they're like, oh, that's cool, And then I started just having that support system. I started to branch out and be like, okay, like my friends agree, it's pretty cool. I just needed that reassurance to like get going, I would like to think I could do all this stuff on my own, and the physical and all work and all that stuff I am doing on my own. Besides, I mean, I got one buddy who's like, he's one of the best, I wouldn't say designer, but the typography and like the creative look of the way that text is, the typography essentially, but like just putting that on the graphic, like the SFX kind of look, just even going over stuff with him like that has just been like, that's even like driven me to where I'm like, okay, I gotta do more, and it's made me more excited about the whole thing. But other than that, I've been doing everything on my own. Even the typography, I've just kind of sent him a couple things and been like, hey, what do you think? And then he showed me his idea, and then I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna take it in that direction. But yeah, even this drawing that I'm doing here for this scene in general is something I came up with a couple friends, as I was saying, and now I've been kind of milking it, to be honest. I think this is going to be probably, other than the few pages that I'm doing, this is going to be the last I visit this, I want to say topic, but this scenario with the I want to call them deadites too, because I've been using that lately, because I'm tired of calling them zombies, because they can kind of talk. Like they have, I'll go over that too, because I've been doing that on TikTok, as I've been explaining what these monstrous things are. And they're essentially possessed people, right? And they're possessed in a way that's almost like the comic book Crossed by Garth Ennis, where they are a bit zombie-like, but they're also mutated, and they're mutating, but not in a sci-fi kind of way. They're mutating in a evolutionary kind of way, where like whatever drives them to be stronger and more dangerous, it's like a tumorous growth. So for example, these creatures that I'm drawing, they got tired of watching people get on helicopters and kind of like high up areas where they couldn't reach them, so they developed these springs on their legs, kind of like tension loaded, like almost like the what's that mantis shrimp, the one that like flicks things at the speed of light. It creates light underwater and almost a vacuum, like an air pocket underneath water, because it hits it so hard. That's what these things do, is they have these spring loaded legs that build up, and then they snap. And that's why you'll see in these drawings that I'm doing, their legs are all tore up and kind of like just shredded to ribbons, really. Like it's almost a design element that I'm working on too, that I want to make it look disgusting. And I think in this video we're gonna get there too. But back to the topic. What it's been like working on this comic book, as I was saying, it's been everything I wanted, essentially, to get me back on track on just, I don't want to say it in a cringy way, but like giving my life back the artistic purpose, right? Because I've always wanted to be a comic book creator over everything. And that's why the art has come, and that's why I've always wanted to tell stories. So telling the stories is just as important as the art. So I don't know if I've made that clear before, but I like telling these stories as much as I like drawing them. Drawing them is just like sharing them with you, right? I'm like, hey, this is what it looks like in my head. This is what I think about these like movie scenes in behind my eyelids, right? And it's more of a way of sharing it and kind of releasing it out of your brain, really. The reason that I actually started this video, because this is one of my other topics, and the whole video was essentially me doing like the therapeutic kind of garbled nonsense that I usually do, and then I end up deleting the video. But I felt like this video was worth keeping, so that's why I'm doing the recording. But I did want to touch on it too, because I feel like it would help other people. And essentially what has been happening is I've been going through kind of like a war between TikTok and Instagram, right? Instagram, I've gone out of my way to follow other artists and like-minded people, and it's some of the friends that I talk to now about this comic book are some of the friends I've made off Twitter and Instagram. And real quick, I did delete my Twitter. It just was not working for me. I did everything. Even the Grok app was like, hey, if you do this, and then your art's going to get exposed more. And I did everything it told me to do for the last half a year or whatever, and nothing's changed. Nobody's liked my art. So after a while, you're just like, okay, I give up, it's not helping me. It's just like beating a dead horse. So why keep doing it? So Instagram was next. Instagram is kind of teetering on the brink of being useless to me. And part of it's because I don't really push myself out there too much. I'm a bit shy, and it's my own fault. So everything that I say is kind of like my own doing. But at the same time, I really do try. I get on other artists' posts, and I try to communicate with people, and I try to talk to the other artists. I wish, and this is one of my only complaints about the whole thing, is I wish artists that are at my level or above would speak with me, but they're not those kind of people. Like, you're not going to get, I don't want to say a name brand artist, but you can't get a conversation going with these people. That's why I feel like it's imperative for me, no matter how good I get, to talk to people, because I think it matters. Like, I've had maybe one or two artists that I really admire speak with me, and it's made a big difference. One of the ongoing jokes I have too is that I always know they're going to tell me any question that I have about making my art better. They're just going to, and I'll share this with you, is they're just going to tell you to keep drawing or draw more, and that's like this ongoing gags, no matter what, like, hey, how do you draw a hand? And like, oh, just keep drawing, draw more, or whatever, and you get mad about it. But TikTok versus Instagram, it was funny because I was just telling my buddy that TikTok has been a blessing in disguise for me, right? Everything I've been posting on TikTok has just been firing on all cylinders. I'm getting 1,000 views, hundreds of views per minute, I'm posting art, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know it could be this good. And then I start to like get full of myself, and I'm like, maybe I am this good, right? Maybe I am a pretty decent artist. And that, like, it validates you. Validation is important in art. I think it's what makes artists in the first place. Like, if you go back in time and you take away all the validation I got as a child when I was drawing Wolverine or some Ninja Turtle or whatever, and somebody just came up and was like, hey, that sucks, like, I probably would have quit back then. Like, that's just how it goes. And I think that's why a lot of people quit in the first place, is like, sometimes you're lucky enough to do a drawing where and you'll feel this as an artist, is sometimes you can't miss. You draw a couple lines and it's just easy on the eyes. I think it's why people like, what's that art called? Abstract art is not the Jason Pollock what crap, which conspiracy theory confirmed apparently that guy really did suck, and it was just the U.S. government pushing it to mess with the Russians, who were actually really good artists, and they're just like driving them insane by making this really shitty artist like like famous. Good, so it's worked on the rest of us as well, because sometimes you'll see stuff and you're like, how the but it'll make you lose your mind a little bit. But the validation, right, and just the kind compliments and just the push for you to keep going. TikTok, I've done it before, and I got nowhere with it, so I don't know what I did differently. I mean, I've gotten better. I'll say that as an artist, like I like my whole drive right now is to be the best I can be every project. Every time I pick up the tablet or pick up the pencil, I want to be a better artist one way or another, And I think I'm at a spot now where once somebody sees my stuff again, it's almost like I'm that kid again where someone's like, hey, this is actually pretty good. And I'm like, what? Thank you, and I genuinely mean it. So the TikTok has been like this breath of fresh air, like that, plus combined with the energy of doing this comic that I'm doing right now. It's working, right? Like, it feels good. And so I'm getting all these dopamine drops, like just like hitting me, and I'm just bathing in it essentially, because I'm like, I don't want it to end. However, you knew this was coming. I don't know if it's a bipolar thing, or I don't know if it's just like the sweet and sour of life. If you're going to have something sweet, it's not going to be, or it can't be sweet unless you have something sour, right? It's a little saying I got from a movie called Vanilla Sky. They keep saying the sweet and sour, and you can't have sour without sweet, right? To really appreciate both sides of it. It's also just bipolar depression, I think. And when you're feeling like you're on top of the world, right? And this is how I was feeling. I was feeling on top of the world because of this TikTok stuff. All of a sudden, you hit a wall at some point. You don't know when it's going to happen. I started to get full of myself, and I'm like, I'm going to do this Kickstarter because I have all this traffic on TikTok. I'm going to start like kind of promoting this comic book, and even though I'm going to have a low dollar point, like I think I can do something with this. I think I could have one of those stories from like you put out a comic book and all of a sudden you blow up. I've seen comic books go for like 4,000 to 10,000 to 40,000, and I'm like, I'm in my wildest dreams, I'm thinking, But I'm also treating it like I think that's what made it happen, is I got into TikTok with like no expectations, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to talk about art, I'm going to push art, and I'm going to be grateful. So a lot of my posts, I'm having a self-realization moment, so I'm kind of working through it. A lot of my posts, I was explaining what I was doing with the piece I was actually working on, the art piece. Kind of like this video one. I'll get into it here pretty soon once I get done ranting and raving and complaining and all that good stuff. But so I'd get a comment, and the even with this video, I got a comment, and people were like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm all for it, And I was like, oh, like, here's my chance. And I'd reply to them, and I'd be like, hey, this is what I was thinking about this thing, and I'm trying to achieve this kind of look. They're fighting in the clouds, and it's all kind of gravity based, so like no one's flying, but it's like free falling / like these things are flying by them. I'm like explaining the whole thing to them, and then like they're like, oh, that's so cool, And I think that's where the success of TikTok came from versus Instagram, where I finally started getting a couple more likes from people. I don't know what was going on, but I was bad mouthing Instagram and telling my buddy, hey, I'm gonna turn Instagram into like a private or a personal account. I'm gonna start doing all the gym bro pictures and videos and traveling and food and all that stuff, and kind of bring it back to like real life, instead of just always trying to do art and getting nowhere with it. And then I started getting like some likes here and there. I don't think anything over 20 likes, so that's what we're dealing with. But 20 likes is more than, what I usually get or whatever. I usually get like 7, and then I'm like one of them's from like my mother or something, And then so Instagram started coming back just a little bit. And then Facebook even, I had a couple friends who were like, hey, yeah, you should really push this on the Kickstarter, and they're kind of like believing in me. So, and then my pride and joy, TikTok. I ran into a wall on TikTok. So I did my first flyer, which I spent a good amount of time on, kind of getting this look of these 2 characters from my story dropping into these clouds that you see here. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I'm listening to the Deftones Eros unreleased album, and it just fits. And I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. And so I do this flyer, which I'm planning on passing them out around town and at comic book shops. And that's the whole reason I'm doing all these things, because I really do believe in prep. Now, I actually got to write that down, because that's something that my ADD is not going to let go. Prep versus whatever, work. I have to start writing topics down, because like my mind gets scrambled, and I want to talk about like 30,000 different things at once. But I'm making this flyer, and I write Kickstarter on it, and I write the date. So I'm going to post it on October 1st, and then hopefully it's funded by Halloween, right? So 10/31 is my Kickstarter window that I'm aiming for, and I'm going 66 pages, if not more. I'm going to try for more, to be honest. I want 150, but that might be unreasonable. But I got a lot of tips and tricks that I'm going to implement with this comic book that I wouldn't otherwisely, I want to add that in there, otherwisely get to do. Like I'm talking about like a wave of destruction through these creatures, with the super soldiers going through like 4 or 5 pages of bodies, and then like them being full spreads, so it kind of like I can burn through pages if I need to, And I make this flyer and I post it, and I get nothing. Like I get even now, it's picked up a little bit since, but even now I think I only have like 200 views, just views. I think I have like it picked up a little bit more with likes and stuff like that from that, but going from like 1,000 to like just 200, and like the 1,000 and counting, on other pieces, I was just like, oh no. Like I'm it's a good thing I'm not like betting on it, but it just put me in this funk of like, I'm gonna fail, so I got all this doubt going through my mind, where I'm like, I'm not gonna make it, like this thing sucks, nobody cares. I'm kind of just drawing monsters, and I'm a dumb guy for thinking I can do this and make something of it. Like all these like terrible thoughts are going through my head. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna jump on this this YouTube thing, make a video to kind of pull myself out of the funk, because like I didn't want to do anything. Like I wanted to shut down and just kind of lay in bed, because I was that kind of just not dumbfounded, but that down about it, that I just was like, I almost was like, I should probably quit, but I also realized it's like I was saying with the sweet and sour stuff, is like it's the highs and lows of life, and like I knew I was in a low because of all the highs that I had recently. And so I had to pull myself out of it. And so I started drawing this thing. Now I'm going to talk about this more and more as we go, because I'm almost through my topics essentially, besides the new one I just made. What I was doing, yeah. So that's why I actually started drawing this video, to kind of like distract myself, and it worked like better than I thought. So I'm actually going to kind of transition into talking about what's actually going on in the video, or I could actually talk about the prep versus the work note that I made. So I believe if you're going to run a Kickstarter, like my advice, if you want a successful one, I've had 2 successful Kickstarters, 1 failure, and that was my first one that I believe I've talked about before. But the thing I was like trying to pass on to another person asking about Kickstarters, and I'm not the best at it, but I think it's a common sense thing with these things. Is like it's what I pulled out of wrestling one time. And my coach, I had to wrestle this one dude who was like, he looked like a monster, and I was like, how did he make weight, you know? And my coach was like, well, how hard did you try to make weight, you know? And it really put me in the space of like, how hard did I try, you know? Like, could I have gone down lower, you know? And like, you're really running from whatever. But it just put me in that mindset of like everything I look at now in that way, competitive or otherwise, is like, how hard did you actually try if you want results, right? And so with these Kickstarters and art in general, it's like, how hard did you try? Did you treat it like it was life and death? Did you act like it was like air, you know, and you're drowning and you need it to work? And that's the mindset that not only with the Kickstarter, but with this comic book, when I start drawing, I'm like, why cut corners and do stuff that I don't like, when we can make this a really, really cool comic book? And then when we do this prep work, it's pretty much going all in on it. And that's what's hurting me at the moment, to be honest, is I'm doing a lot more prep work for the actual promotion of this comic book than I am the comic book. So we are going to fix that. That's this drawing that I'm doing now, even though I'm going to put it in the comic book. So this is what the interior art, like the interior page art, which I'm going to write that down because I'm going to talk about that. Page art. That's what this comic book is going to look like. And if you've listened to me before, like rant about comic books, there's like getting a comic book where you really like the cover. You ever done this where you go buy a comic book because the cover looked really cool, but then you open up the comic book and you're like, oh, this sucks, right? It's the old switcheroo. It's like, why do that, you know? Like, I get it. Like, sometimes you just need the advertisement just to like sell a comic book. And there are some comic books and graphic novels, there's a lot of them, I'm not saying some, but that hold up just by story alone. Like Why the Last Man. What's the one I always preach about? Crossed, even. Garth Ennis's Crossed. I think even The Boys. I haven't read The Boys, but I think all the interior art kind of sucks. But like, the covers are amazing. Like, Why the Last Man, I believe the cover artist is Massimo Carnival, I think his name is. He's like an Italian painter, something like that, but he's amazing. And then you open up the book and it's like, it's like line art. I used to despise that until I actually like let the story captivate me. And then same thing with Preachers. You got Glenn Fabry, which honestly I really believe the older I get, the more Glenn Fabry my art looks. With this video in particular, Like I really got like a Glenn Fabry vibe from this. But say Preacher, I think Glenn Fabry has the best covers of any comic book series ever. He's made some of the best covers, I think, ever of any comic book, and I'm glad it's rubbed off on me, to be honest. And I think I almost met him one time. I think he might have passed on recently, or it might have been Steve Dillon who did the interior art. I think it was Steve Dillon for Preacher. I think one of them passed away. But I back to the topic is I kind of hate. I hate saying that now that we've kind of made this dark, but I kind of hate opening up a comic book and just not being happy with the first impression of the interior art. It's like date night, right? And you take off the clothes and you're like, I might have to cut that out. But that's what I'm talking about, right? It's just being the disappointment kind of like kills it sometimes, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like if you've read Meta Baron by who was Meta Baron by? It's by the guy that originally did it's gonna kill me, but I'm gonna have to gloss over that. But Meta Baron has insane, amazing artwork all the way through. It's so good, and I think that's special. Like there's very few comic books out there like that, and that's why I want mine to join the ranks of like, you open up the book and it doesn't skip a beat, you know. You like the interior art just as much as you like the cover art, you know. Another guy that's really good with that stuff is that Shaolin Cowboy guy. I'm not gonna be able to remember his name off the top of my head, but his stuff is like, the covers might have a little bit more color in them, but the interior art is just as good. Like it's, and a little bit more intricate. So I got a couple books I bought of that one that I'm gonna probably pop open to get some influence on for this story. Sorry, even though I planned to kind of do this recording, I also just jumped on it without having any prep, so that yawn was for the books. Alright, so we talked about interior page art. We talked about prep work versus the actual work. I am cheating a little bit, and I'm going to use this image that we're drawing in the video right now. I'm using that as a interior page, one of the, maybe 2 or 3 of the panels, because I don't think it's set up for the flyer size, which the flyer is like 8.5 by 11, and I believe the comic book pages are like 6 by 9. So we're gonna have to do something about that, but I'm gonna cheat and use this inside the comic book, which I told you at the beginning of the comic book series. I'm gonna pull up old art that I have laying around, and even some of the videos, some of the demons, monsters, and whatever that we drew. I'm gonna use those pictures in the comic book. It's part of making the comic book, and it's a way to kind of inspire yourself to keep going, but also have like a page filler where you can just drop it in and be like, yeah, that's why I drew it, you know. And most of the time it actually is. Sorry, my dog's sneezing. You all right, buddy? You all right? He's all right. All right, let me talk about this drawing, I guess, right? The hair and the bra. So originally I was going to just make it some guy, and I had decided to keep the monster creature thing like naked because I liked the body, as strange as it is. I'm pretty set on making these things with clothes this time out. But because, like I said, sometimes when you're drawing, the lines, like, it just works. Like, things just, like, they fall into place. And I feel like even though the anatomy sucks for that upper torso, and there's like that weird tumorous growth in the what is that, the sternum? I forgot what that area, the exact area is called, but like that diaphragm, the diaphragm. Because of that, I was like, I can't cover this thing up. Like, I like it too much. Like, from going from being, I'm just gonna say depressed, from going from depressed to like really enjoying myself drawing this thing. Like, I wasn't gonna mess it up, so I threw the bikini top on there just because I felt like maybe it would help. It was kind of just a wing it type of thing. A lot of people do thumbnails and they'll draw something a couple times before they actually do the actual drawing. And for better or worse, I just jump into things sometimes, and then if you see the layers on the right there, oh, that's my kind of trial and errors. I'm like, okay, I'll try this, but if it doesn't work, I can just always delete the layer. The hair, I did the same way. So the bra is actually kind of a saving grace, and you'll see at the very end, like, I can't see this image without that bra, to be honest. The hair and this face tormented me for the longest trying to do this. The hair comes from a reference. So as I was making this thing, and that's why I had the long pause there, is I was like, I want to draw, I want to add some like life reference to this thing. So, and I wanted it to look awkward. I've said it 1,000 times, and I really do mean it, is I adore the character designs in Attack on Titan, the monsters. Like, I love them so much. Whoever came up with that stuff, just a round of applause. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes things just hit, and that's one of them where it's like it fits it so well. And so I've been trying to incorporate that into my drawings as much as I can. I looked up, I think his name's Mark Davis. He's the owner or the GM of the Las Vegas Raiders, or the Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas. And if you haven't seen him yet, like, you have to look up this guy. Like, he has probably the worst hair on the planet. And he's one of those people that are rich and then have like a supermodel girlfriend or something like that. And I think I mentioned that in here. It's funny that I'm drawing this because I was trying to kind of copy his smile, and then like the article that was attached to the picture I was using, he's like, my girlfriend didn't know I was a millionaire. She just loves me for my smile. And I was like, oh, okay, right? So I just wanted to incorporate that. But he has like the weirdest bowl cut, and I know this thing kind of ends up looking like He-Man a little bit, but like, I think it was worth it. And then you'll see this face. This face was the worst. I couldn't, for the longest time, I was just like, oh my, this sucks. The teeth kind of remain there. I've been killing it with teeth lately, and I haven't really been trying. That's the funny part about it, is all the other videos that I've been doing, I've been talking about like doing studies on hair mainly and teeth, and I don't know if it just needed to be talked about, but then all of a sudden I've noticed the teeth in my drawings are kind of like, they're working. I have to give credit to a guy on TikTok, because after I started this face and it was bothering me so much, I started looking up like horror and what's working on TikTok, and there's this guy that makes these videos where they have these elongated people, kind of like the video I watched, it was like this lady doing laundry, and he kind of walks down to his basement, and he sees how creepy she or he, it looks like a big cross-dresser. I think it is. I think it's him, just like kind of like dressed up or something. But he like makes the face all wacky, kind of like Attack on Titan-ish. And I tried to kind of mimic that here in the face a little bit, and I feel like that was the saving grace of this whole thing, as you'll see when I go to do the eyeballs. At this point, when I was doing this thing, I still wasn't set on the bra because of the way the anatomy is. The anatomy is like just terrible. It looks like almost like the Hulk, right? like the Hulk with the He-Man wig, and it's just, I hadn't fallen in love with the image yet. A little bit in the stomach. The stomach kind of got me, and then the tore up legs is what really sold me on this thing as I was going. And you can kind of tell I'm not happy with the face here, and I start really kind of just working on it. A good thing to do is pull up reference as much as you can. Just some I hate doing it, but I have a lot of like news feeds. Oh, right there, I thought I lost everything, and my heart stopped for a good moment. So I had to let you guys know drastic things almost happened. But I keep a lot of news feeds, and I watch a lot of stories, and I look at pictures to kind of like, even though it sucks seeing bad things and reading stupid stories, you never know what you're gonna like retain for later, you know. I think that's what helped this face in the long run, is I started kind of like bringing in like different elements from recent views of stories and weird stuff I had been reading about, really. Images too, really. If you save them, you never know what you can use later on. I think I was going through my hard drive, and I found this image of like this homeless guy, which you'll see at the very end of this drawing, which I'm not trying to make fun of the homeless or anything like that, but I did think it was funny that I had this random person that I threw into the picture, and I thought it was pretty cool. That person's like out there in the world somewhere. He has no idea he's part of this project. One thing that I saw kind of rewatching the video too is this creature's supposed to be coming up from the ground, so you'll see behind it, it's a little bit too light. It's something that I have to address later on. I believe I talked about it while I was working on this thing too, but I was kind of dead set on fixing the face and the body and all that stuff. But we're pretty much the opposite, and that's another thing that I need to start paying attention to, because I say it in the original content, is I need to start being self-aware of the lighting going into this thing, because if I would have really held myself accountable and done responsible lighting from the get-go, this thing would look so much better. Like, it's coming upwards towards the sky, so it should be really well lit. And I dropped the ball on that a little bit, I already know. Also, the guy that I was doing a reference from, the Mark Davis guy, has like demon eyes. I just want to point that out. He's got these slanted, kind of like pure black, greedy, beady eyes. So that's why they kind of look like that. I believe I changed them up, but just wanted to tell you it wasn't my fault that that he looked like that. All right. Yeah, you can just tell I hate this face at this point, and I'm trying to figure my way out of it. I do believe there's one thing coming up after a while that I don't know if I should take advantage of now and talk about it, but I wanted to talk about AI, and it stemmed from one of my favorite directors, Guillermo del Toro, talking about AI, and my only response to him for that was like, hey, you made a Frankenstein story, so like unless you're doing something purely original, like maybe don't talk about using AI, right? Because I'll say my take on it is you shouldn't use it for gain. AI is a tool for practice. One of the things I do with AI is for this comic book, when I wanted to come up with the title and I had no idea how it was going to look, I put my cover that I had drawn. All of it was hand drawn by me. None of it's posted, just in case you're kind of like holding a gun already towards me. But none of it's posted or anything like that. But I used it as a tool, kind of like a practice drawing with my own drawing. But I told AI to create a font and a title for me using essentially the title I had created. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I'm not posting that. It was essentially me like double checking my work essentially and seeing if I had room to like kind of work with it. And I think that's one of the drawings I do here is I show the cover that I did and just the thumbnail essentially. So there's no AI in my work, just to get that off my chest and get you to put the pitchforks down. But it is a useful tool for practice, I think. That said, in this video I went on a long rant about directors using established work but then trying to tell people how to, like, it's what I'm doing here, I guess, too, because it's like, hey, and like, don't do this or whatever. But I just think it's kind of ironic is using someone else's work and then pushing it off as your own, like Frankenstein, like the Odyssey, like what else has been one lately? What's that vampire one? Nosferatu, right? That's all other people's work too. So I think it's just a double-edged sword that people need to be more careful about. Even this story, this comic book that I'm doing, it's video game based. I knew I wanted to make a video game based style comic book, and that's essentially just the plot. I'm not taking the actual, like, if I was to do what I'm talking about, I would take Halo, right? And then just be like Kevin's Halo and then do Halo. I'm not doing that. I'm essentially saying, hey, this video game drops these characters into this mission. They go on a destructive warpath and then they complete the mission. That's as loosely based as my premise is for this comic book, essentially, because I wanted to keep it that simple. I really wanted it to be a not a dull story, but it's just something bare, like something with no bells and whistles. You can see in this drawing that I'm doing that I wasn't happy with the anatomy. You can tell that I knew, sometimes you can get away with, because it's a monster, you can have really bad anatomy and forms and stuff. And even in the finished version, I still don't like the way I did the shoulders and the depth of the arms. Like I could have really put some cylinders in there and kind of like test ran it out and made it more realistic, and it probably would have been a better picture. I also feel like I could have put skin texture in more, and in retrospect I almost want to put like a skin rash on both arms, almost like their sleeves, and kind of making them like, give them a little bit of thickness to make it like kind of gross. And that's just some of the thoughts I was having rewatching this thing. All right, what's coming up here? What am I doing? Oh, I merge a lot of layers. I don't believe in having a ton of layers. I know if it's like people working on actual products, they'll probably keep all these layers, but I don't have the best computer, so I try to keep my stuff simple, so I put less strain on my computer. I'm also working on 72 DPI, which helps my computer function. And I feel like it really makes the brushes work better as well. And lately, as much shit as I talk against Adobe Photoshop, I feel like they've fixed something to where even though you're working in 72 DPI and you go to transfer to 300 DPI, some of the detail still stays a little bit more than it used to. The trick I'm doing there is something I learned off of a manga called Biomega, and their creatures used to have like these the way they would show their forms and the creases in their bodies, they would light up on the outside of it with like a lighter color and then blend in the darker to the other muscle. And I always thought that was a cool thing. I'm trying to implement it here a little bit. It's a lot of work for like a minor character. I think this character just flies by the person. It's that anticlimactic. I really wanted to show that these things aren't flying. They're just essentially jumping at the characters that are they themselves falling. So I think one of them runs into one of the characters, and it's like our first chance to kind of gauge the strength of these things and them. And it's a cool little moment that I had drawn up. Essentially, if you watch the other video, I kept it. So we're gonna be working on that here pretty soon too. But even just this drawing, I'm gonna use this character again to kind of show the melodramatic effect of this character being rendered, and me pouring my heart and soul into this image just for it to like pass them by. Like I have this over the shoulder shot of it like flying by and be like, oh, right. Which I like adding a little bit of like stupid humor into things. And so like seeing this thing in this like center page creature completely rendered and like feeling like it's the main character just failing the mission essentially. It makes my heart warm. All right, the shoulders are just way too bulky. I actually like that arm too. If you look at the hand, out of the two arms, it's probably I'm trying to come up with stuff to talk about so I don't have to just speed everything up to be incoherent. But I actually like that arm more than the other one. Oh, we're doing the eyeball. This is where it gets good because I feel like this saved the image. And I do that thing that I talk about sometimes with I don't want to say holes, but like in like the eyes, and sometimes just scribbling inside like wherever you're working until something pops out and it's like, here I am, as I've said before. Just like that, like all I did was scribble, and I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm showing you kind of like the that's bone on the outside of the circle, the physics of what I'm doing here. So even though it looks like a skull, what I'm doing is showing like how the skin folds into this crater's hole for the eye. So then we're gonna have the eye here, and I'm just showing a diagram, right? So here's the eyeball. I was like, it's gonna be bigger than that, but what we do is we still want the eyelid in there and it's sunking in, but then also the skin is kind of like stretched over the bone here. So you get that crater, but you also kind of get like a nasty sunken in eye look. And then I was just showing like if you're gonna do the eyelid, you gotta give it some highlights to show that there is an actual thickness of the eyelid. It's just not like a super thin sheet of paper or something like that. And I feel like that's been one of my most successful revelations that I've had doing these things and making it more believable, especially with armor. And I'm showing a side profile too of how it looks. You see that thickness there. So it's just not an empty blotch of color is what I'm saying. Like there is a method to my madness. I think I do that with the other eye too, as I kind of explain, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking while I do this. And then I just kind of like really sold the idea here. So put in highlights along the actual bone part that sticks out. The other eye, I try to kind of mess with it a little bit more too. And it's still one of those things where it's just like you scribble on it until something like reveals itself. Like it's gonna, one way or another, the more you work on something's gonna, it's like looking into the clouds until you form a picture, like something's gonna show. That's the part where I was talking about the AI. So I draw the cover of the book, and I'm like, hey, this is what I drew, and I put AI in, and I said, hey, put a text behind, or a font title behind the characters. And yeah, because I went on a rant about the whole director and Guillermo del Toro thing, because I just think it's wrong. You can't. I understand the outrage if somebody's like selling AI artwork or whatever, but for the most part, because I think it's still illegal to do anything with AI to where if you can't sell it because it's not your artwork, you know. But to tell people not to use it because it's whatever, it's just stupid, and that's why I thought it was hypocritical of him after doing a Frankenstein story where it's not his story, you know. But and I only say that because he's that type of director that like makes it his. It's like you can't design something without his design, you know. And you've seen that in like the behind the scenes stuff with Hellboy and stuff. It's like he's turned things down because he's like, it's not right, and it's gonna be my design. So I don't know. He's actually one of my favorite directors. One of my favorite movies is The Devil's Backbone. The other one that he did that I hate is Crimson Peak, which is like a regurgitated, crappy version, cheap knockoff of Devil's Backbone with Loki from whatever, that guy. And it is what it is. I like the Devil's Backbone so much for what it is, and it's the reason I think Stranger Things came out, because there's a genre of movie where they use a kid's perspective, or a genre story where they use a kid's perspective, and it almost feels honest. It's like where it feels honest because it's them experiencing the world essentially in the story you're telling, and I think that's just genius, to be honest. I thought I was going to go over this eye more, the other one I did. I really ended up liking that simple design, and I think I do a diagram to kind of explain myself of it, because there is a little bit more depth in it that I don't think you can see on the recorded version. Like you kind of have to actually hold the image up to your face, because there is a pupil in there, but it might just be dark. The Whitey Tighties. There is a story to this that I want to share. One of my favorite things I like to do with these horror drawings is, and I learned it from, is it HR or JR Geiger? The guy that did Alien design, the concept art, where he would pretty much design stuff out of like gender, like everything was like sexually minded things, so that like you felt a certain way when you seen them. I kind of do that with my art in a way where I'll take it mostly in color, and then sometimes in texture, a lot in texture sometimes, really. And what I do is I'll go through and not only pour sickly colors into it, but I'll actually look up, like, say, like venereal diseases and stuff like that, and I'll like use overlays and such as texture in my drawings, so that people get a gross feeling when they look at things, right? It's one of my little tips and tricks that I learned. And then it's not just a copy and paste thing. You take it, and then you kind of learn from it. You understand why things are like scabbed, and the way pus is built up and stuff like that. Like it's a useful tool for making something disgusting, to be honest. It's why the leg looks as nasty as it does too. I actually pulled up, I was looking for chicken, like a chicken that got tore apart, because I always thought that was like a fresh one. I always thought that looked pretty gross, because this thing's leg is really nasty. But oh, I flipped the canvas. I didn't notice for a second. I was like, what happened? But yeah, the underwear. I had a funny story I wanted to talk about for the final version of this. Did you know that Elvis shit himself, and then they took his underwear from when he did that, and they auctioned it off? So you can buy Elvis's shitty underwear. online. So what I did is I went and I found a picture of it, and I selected colors out of it, and I wanted the colors to kind of be this thing's bikini, essentially, because I forgot I had the bra in there. I used all those colors for this part of it. All right, so here we go. We're working on that eye. I'm excited to tell you about this. All right, so this is a shark, and I'm very proud of myself because this is the first freehand shark I've ever drawn in my life. Now, if you didn't know, great white sharks have blue eyes, but because of the way that their eye is built, like I'm drawing here, it looks black, but they're actually blue. And that's essentially what I did with this creature's eye that I'm kind of showing you. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing. But I was so proud of myself because that was the first freehand great white shark I've ever drawn in my life. I've drawn sharks, and it's kind of like horses. Like, sometimes there's things you can and can't draw. Like, I can't draw buildings and cars and some machinery, even though I'm working on it. But like sharks and horses, I can draw the hell out of that, and I'm proud of myself for it. So, and feet and women. Apparently people have trouble drawing women and feet and hands, but I just like kind of wing it, and then it doesn't look terrible. So I could always improve, though. You can improve at everything, really. Right off the bat, you can kind of tell the colors, or the tones, are too dark. I was saying that earlier, but I dropped the ball on the lighting. Like, this thing could have been like really, really cool. It had realistic lighting, but it is what it is. So we're just gonna have to overlook it because I really do enjoy the way this thing turned out. The funny part is I'm shading right there, but what I ended up doing, because I had the bra that the bikini top that I bring back in, because the shading right there looked like the shadow of the bra instead of like making it like a skin thing. I kind of kept it as like the shadow of the bra, and I feel like it really gave it some really cool depth. And then I start working on these nasty legs. So the story behind them is because of that spring action that the legs have. Their legs get like torn apart as soon as they leap into the air, because these things are like all the way up to the clouds. Like, that's how far they jumped, and they're screaming bloody murder, and it's just a scary, intense scene. I feel like if I could show this and like animate it, oh, it would be so cool. Like, I feel like people would see it like as I do, and that would be worth it. Like, I almost want to get like Adobe After Effects and see if I could get away with animating it as closely as I can to what I have in my head. It's kind of like a promotion, really. But again, that's one of those things where I keep saying, like, I'm more concerned about promoting right now than I am doing the work on the actual comic, which I need to break out of that. But it's also cool too, because when you do the promotion and the trailers and stuff like that, you kind of come up with cool ideas, and you're like, oh, I should show this, in the comic book. And then that's how I got, I think, Old Man issue 1, when I did the trailer for it. I did like this like really intense kind of like scene, and between you and me, like, that scene wasn't actually in the comic book when I did it. Like, I had to create that for the comic book. And I think that's why doing these promotion things have become like kind of addictive, because it's like the sweet spot of the story. And so when you do them, you're like, oh, I could do this, and then you got to go back and add it too. So, but I feel like trailers are like that anyways in a movie. Sometimes you watch a trailer for a movie and it ends up being a completely different movie than you thought you were getting yourself into. So, pros and cons, I guess. Yeah, I'm essentially, from what I can tell, I'm essentially just shading at this point. the image is pretty much done, besides like some knick-knack refining. And I think the hip I end up changing because I wanted it to be more like female like, even though this thing's like ripped with like tumors and muscles, like it's supposedly a female. So I will say there is no nudity, so even though I have the bikini kind of flying off, like I didn't draw any nipples, or there's not any nipples in there hidden. It's just, it is what it is. It could even just be a guy in a bikini, so I don't care, you know. It's a creature that's trying to kill somebody, so really, you know. My dog's trying to jump all over me. It's making me mad a little bit. Not mad, but just frustrated. Yeah, this is just like zoning out essentially, and refining it. I don't know how much more I do in this thing, to be honest. I know, I guess just like really working on the shading. Let's see where it goes from here. Yeah, just working on the shading. There we go, the bra. I forgot about the bra. even after I forgot about the bra. I don't think I rendered it until I colored though, so that's the shameful part, because I feel like I did an amazing job. And I almost copped out and went and got a picture to kind of overlay to kind of get like the accurate folds of the clothing. But I stuck to my guns on this one. I already had the reference of Elvis's underwear, and so I color picked the dark and lights, and essentially built his what am I drawing there? What the hell? Oh, a person. Never mind. So I guess I'll draw that one and I'll draw the other one, and kind of leads into what I was talking about with the random guy. I knew I needed like more people in here, so I'm just kind of showing you like, hey, we're gonna draw a couple more people, which it's getting late, but yeah, I'm just adding values in it too, so it's just kind of when I go to color it, to kind of, you don't want anything too detailed because it wouldn't make sense. And it'll take away the focal point of the actual character. If you look in the finished version, like they're essentially just blotches of color. Like I slightly detailed the one, if we're looking at right now, that's on the left. It's a little bit more detailed than the other one, but it's also like a depth thing. So the closer they are, I put a little bit more detail in it, and then the further they are, I just essentially just threw in colors to kind of hint at it. I guess I did work on that leg a little bit. I was trying to make it look like fat was hanging out, and there's some lard in there, and just the visceral, like, if you ever seen like real injuries like that, they're so nasty. Okay, here we go. Here, we're coming up to the end of the picture. Here's my random guy. If you can tell, I got like just the blotches of color. You can't really make him out, but yeah, it's just a picture I saved online, and you never know when you're gonna need something to throw in it. So I did this with a couple characters. I didn't want to work too hard on thinking of like what they're wearing, so I was like, I'll just look through my pictures and see what I have. And with that, we're coming up to the end of the video, so if you checked it out, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.